everyone for coming. We appreciate it, in particular with sort of the ad hoc community group that we have, the fact that you guys would come down to talk about super PACs. We are here to address our concerns about super PACs and their future role in our elections. Many observers are saying that despite all the outside spending by super PACs this election cycle, that they really didn't end up having an impact on electoral outcomes, that they didn't successfully sway an election. That may be true, we can debate that, but just because they were ineffective last time doesn't mean they're going to go away. And I think we have every reason to believe that they're only going to come back and potentially back stronger than before. You've already heard on the national level Karl Rove suggesting they'll be back, and I think in Vermont we have to prepare for super PACs to be back in our elections as well. Our concern is that the spending has only just begun, that it's just started, and the negative influence on elections will only get worse. Essentially, that an arms race has just begun in our elections. It would be a mistake if, as a take-home from this last election, we assume that they weren't a problem and that they're going away. The issue was really driven home for me when, on the Saturday before the election, I came back from a jog, and in my mailbox was a mailer that said, "Vote no on ballot question 1." A ballot question that had received very little opposition, and certainly the mailer was outsized in its opposition by being mailed to every single voter in the city. It really brought it home for me, especially when you see it on your front step. I believe that until we see a constitutional amendment responding to Citizens United, which I think we can all acknowledge is very unlikely, that super PACs will continue to threaten to undermine our democracy and threaten a spirited debate between candidates. I've had the opportunity to be involved in local, state, presidential elections, and they were all fiercely fought races. They were all tough contests. They were all spirited, but the difference was they were candidate versus candidate, and there was a certain level of accountability that occurred in those races as a result. My fear is that super PACs will take that away. They muddy the debate, they confuse voters, they give an outsized voice to the very few, and simply they're not as accountable to the public as candidates are. So we're here in hopes that lawmakers will take up this issue early in the session in earnest and focus on shedding light on super PAC spending through greater transparency and greater accountability with disclosure requirements. If the legislature doesn't act in 2013, then it will be too late for 2014. I know, just coming off the election, it's hard to be thinking about the next time around already, but if in the next 6 months action is not taken, 2014, the die is already likely cast. So among the campaign finance reforms that we're recommending, I'll run through them briefly. They're in the statements you have as well. But first, that election laws should be strengthened to require full disclosure of all substantial donations to super PACs at frequent intervals. That's the problem right now, such as quarterly throughout the year, and then within 24 hours in the final weeks of election day. Second, that if any contributor is given more than a third of the money collected by a single super PAC, they should be required to appear in the broadcast advertising that they are funding, just as federal election candidates are today. Super PACs should be also clearly identified as being funded, super PAC ads should be clearly identified as being funded by a super PAC, not masked as something else with a creative name. Similar disclosure should also be required for print advertising. Finally, we also hope that Vermont lawmakers will look to and draw on solutions from other states. No doubt after this campaign and this election cycle, other states will be looking to address this issue too. But Vermont should continue to lead the way in our tradition of campaign finance reform. I believe it's our obligation to continuously look to work to improve our democracy, carry the flame forward that our parents, our grandparents have fought for, and that addressing super PACs is vitally important part of that responsibility. So I wanted to introduce Annika, who I'm really excited to have here. She's a high school student. She is involved in a leadership role in her NPA in the community, has been involved in local campaigns. I think no doubt is a rising star in our community, but I think most importantly, she is a non-voter. She is not yet 18, and the reforms that we discuss in the near term are the reforms that are going to address the elections that she'll have the opportunity to be voting in. So I'm really pleased to invite Annika to speak for a few minutes. Thanks.
People ask me all the time why I'm so politically engaged when I'm not old enough to vote. I give them two reasons. One, why should I wait until I'm 18 to care about my future and my country's future? And two, I'm afraid that by the time I am 18, I won't have a voice anymore, as I'll be silenced by SuperPACs. I've been counting down the years until I can vote, until I can finally have a say in my country's future. But just when I felt that I was actually old enough to make a difference, the Supreme Court ruled on Citizens United, and things just haven't been the same. Now I wonder whether, when my turn comes to vote, whether the candidates will truly care about me and my family, about my classmate who's just so proud to become an American citizen, about my teachers who come to school every day and are so dedicated, or the mailman that comes so faithfully every afternoon. Chances are we'll all be far down their list of priorities. Number one will be the corporation or the person who, with one signature, brought off an entire campaign and with it a nation's future. The message being sent to young voters such as myself is that our voice, our passion, and our hard work means little. Money is what counts, and lots of it. It's no use emailing that senator anymore or donating those $7 because a couple of billionaires have already taken care of that. They've just donated a mere 200,000 times my hard-earned babysitting money each. I would have to work 24/7 for the next 23 years to catch up to what one donor can give in one day. The issue of SuperPACs is bigger than who wins the next election. It's a question of whose voice really matters in our democracy. Those of passionate young people who will one day lead this country, or only the voices of those who have the money to make their voices